Hi everyone, it is Tisch Aitken, and it is Friday, January 3rd, 2025. 25, got that right. And it's my first video of the year, I believe. I did a live on Instagram. This is my first official video. And as I had said, we began the year with Mars retrograde, and we completed the year of 2024 with Mars retrograde. Now, it's not an ideal way to begin a year because Mars is a personal planet, which is how you launch things. It's how you assert yourself. It's how you get things done. It's how you take action. And it's your enthusiasm. It's your passion. It's your lust for life. And you can feel a little more drained and deflated with Mars retrograde. But it is a cosmic opportunity to review how you can be more effective in your actions, in your work. And more importantly, this is a very unusual Mars retrograde because it will have opposed Pluto 3 times by the end of April. And that's a big part of this too, because Pluto is newly in the sign of Aquarius. It was going back and forth in 2023, and then it returned to the sign of Aquarius on November 19th, where it'll be through 2043. So that's a long time. And this is a whole new era. Somebody asked me about an hour ago, do I feel the shift? And I didn't know what she was alluding to. And you know, here I am talking about it. And she meant Pluto and Aquarius. This is a big, big, big story. There are a lot of other big stories of the year. But Pluto is how you transform and evolve. And it had been in Capricorn from January 8th of 2008, around that time. I think it was the 8th, but it was definitely January of 08, on and off through November 19th of 2024. 16 years we were dealing with Pluto, breaking down systems and structures in our lives and deconstructing things in order to evolve a whole new era of community, of brilliance. Aquarius is about reaching heights we've never reached before. And among other things, it rules aviation, flying to new heights intellectually, brilliant soaring. How about that? But also creating a whole new paradigm and reality for all of us. It's about, you know, Aquarius rules astrology. It's also about metaphysics, about alternative ways of thinking and healing, big breakthroughs with medicine and technology. Well, we were already in a digital revolution, and I always say this, we feel the signs of the new era before it's happened. So the Capricorn era really had already been played out. We were already dealing with a digital time, but now this is a digital revolution on steroids. AI is our theme song, whether we like it or not, but what do we do with this? And so we don't want to lose our humanity, Aquarius, okay? We don't want to lose our sense of individuality, Aquarius. We don't want to lose our creativity. Well, I mentioned that Mars is retrograde, and Mars retrograded initially in the sign of Leo on December 6th at 6 degrees and 11 minutes of the fixed fire sign of Leo. Leo is the most creative of the fire signs. It rules the heart chakra. It's the performer of the zodiac. It's the Mick Jagger of the zodiac. And so Mars in Leo is very strong. It's powerful. But in retrograde, it's re-examining how you can shine your light in this time. A lot of people are very broken. They're very depressed. We've dealt with a lot the last 5 years. Can you believe it's been 5 years since the pandemic broke out? And that legendary pairing of Saturn and Pluto on January 12th of 2020, that was unforgettable astrology at the World Access, hitting all of us. Death and rebirth on the global level, much loss on the global level, but many people have recreated or created many new ways of getting by during this time. We had to survive. And at that time, we had a lot of points in Capricorn, and that was about responsibility and dealing with limitations and structures and being restricted literally, but but we got through it. And now with Pluto and Aquarius, we're evolving a whole new time. But you know, it's going to come in stops and starts, because Mars opposed Pluto for the first time on November 3rd, before Pluto had ingressed back into the sign of Aquarius. So Pluto was at the final degree of Capricorn, and Mars was at the final degree of Cancer. Now, Mars will retrograde back into Cancer on January 6th, but that was the first pairing or standoff of Mars and Pluto. Mars and Pluto both rule the sign of Scorpio. Mars is combat, and Pluto is death and transformation. It rules the underworld, but it also rules power, and it can it can definitely knock out Mars, because it is the higher octave. And they were in cardinal action-oriented signs. Now, today, well, last night at 11:21 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and early this morning at 2:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mars and Pluto had their second showdown. And this was at 1 degree and 8 minutes of the fixed signs of Leo and Aquarius. Different energy. Fixed is stubborn. It can get stuck. But in Aquarius, it's fixed, rapid change, immediate change. And in Leo, it's about being stubborn, saying, I have courage, but, you know, I've got to open my heart. The more you open your heart to this new era, and yes, there are a lot of scary things in the background, no question. We always feel Mars cycles before they become exact, and we always feel Uranus before it becomes exact. So Mars opposed Pluto officially last night, early this morning, but think of the stories at the very end of 24. Unfortunately, that awful situation in New Orleans, the guy that drove and killed 10 people, and late in the or early in the morning, and just awful. And then there was the explosion in Las Vegas, and there's another guy in Virginia. I think he was the middle of December, but these Mars stories, and they found at his house I think over 150 explosives, more than the FBI has ever found. And so there are world stories like that, and often we feel Mars definitely before it becomes exact, but the energy is still incredibly noticeable right now, and I can feel it. I got a little Marsed up last night, and this is for us on the individual level. Well, we know we're dealing with Mars retrograde for a while. I'm going to get to Venus in a minute. I got a lot to cover here. But Mars is, again, the god of war, but it's also how you get moving. It's how you get going. It's your passion. It's your enthusiasm. It's not all pejorative. These are good things. You want to move ahead. Well, there's an analogy. There's something called the SEPTA, which from Philadelphia out to South Jersey, you take the train. And I'm not that used to it, but I am. It's cool, And it reminded me of Mars retrograde, because I was facing forward but moving backwards. And I'm like, wow, this is the feeling of Mars retrograde. It made me feel a little nauseous, because I was looking ahead and moving back. And so with that said, Mars returning to the sign of Cancer on January 6th, well, Cancer rules the gut. It can a lot of cancers deal with digestive issues, or when they're upset, their stomach hurts or something, because they internalize their emotions, and Cancer rules the stomach. And this is where, on one hand, you want to trust your gut, but also realizing that there are a lot of painful processes to Mars opposite Pluto. Mars retrograde is doing shadow work. It's not fun. I am a Scorpio sun, so Mars rules my sign, so does Pluto really rules my sign. And so having both of them in opposition, that is uncomfortable. This is where we have, how do we handle this? How do you handle if you're feeling charged up and angry? You're not going to want to explode like the guy did in Vegas, unfortunately. You don't want to do something really impulsive, we all can do it at times, but you want to figure out, how do I manage my emotions? Because when Mars returns to Cancer, it's in its fall position. It's very crabby. It's very sensitive. And it answers to the moon, which changes signs every 2.5 days. So sometimes the moon may be in an easygoing sign and it may be making good aspects. Sometimes the moon is not making easy aspects, and so it's more turbulent and whimsical and changes a lot, like the moon. And so you have to figure out, and so do I, and we all have to do. How do we transform? Pluto is in Aquarius. This is not so much just about emotions, Mars and Cancer, but Pluto and Aquarius, there is so much opportunity. Aquarius is infinite brilliance, infinite opportunity. And we're dealing also, so now I get to this part of it, but Mars Pluto is a big deal. Mars will not clear its shadow until May 2nd, meaning it gets to 17 degrees of Cancer, where it initially retrograded on December 6th. And I forget now when it leaves the sign of Leo. I think it's June 17th, I believe, because it's going to be in Cancer through April 18th, and then it goes back into Leo. And oh no, May 15th, it's going to clear its shadow. Oh, no, I'm getting a lot of stories confused, because now we're dealing with Venus in Pisces and a lot of Pisces energy, and we are all dealing with Jupiter squaring Saturn still, which occurred on Christmas Eve on December 24th. Jupiter, which is retrograde in Gemini, clashed with Saturn, which is in Pisces. Jupiter is expansion and hope and optimism, and Saturn is your responsibility, it's your karma, it's your accountability. Saturn in Pisces wants you to structure through your faith and through trusting your intuition too, and using your imagination. But the two are kind of wonky in this, because it's almost like, do I believe what I've been trying to expand? And Jupiter is detriment. It's in its detriment in Gemini, because it rules the opposite sign of Sag. So, that doesn't help. But there's that energy. So here we go. Venus, the planet of love and beauty, the love goddess of the zodiac, the Rita Hayworth of the zodiac, okay? Venus entered the mutable water sign of Pisces on January 2nd at 10:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will be there on and off through April 30th. And it's going to transit in Pisces through February 4th. Then it's entering the cardinal fire sign of Aries. So we're dealing a lot with Mars and Venus energy. The north node of karma is still in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. Mars is retrograde, so a lot of Mars themes. But the north node is right now in Aries through January 11th. Venus is in Pisces now through February 4th. Then it enters Aries, and it's going to retrograde. Okay, we got another big retrograde ahead. Venus retrogrades on March 1st at 24 degrees and 38 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. This defaults back to the lunar eclipse on September 17th, which was at 25 degrees and 41 minutes of Pisces. This automatically sets that off. And it also sets off where Neptune, which rules Pisces, was transiting approximately 22, 23 through about early 24. So a lot of Neptune, Pisces, sensitivity, where it's lack of direction, but working with the imagination. Venus is exalted in Pisces. It loves being there. And Venus will retrograde in Aries on March 1st at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries. But it's going to return to Pisces on March 27th. But this is the interesting point. So we've got Venus initially retrograding at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries, which automatically defaults back to the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse on October 2nd, which was at 10 degrees of Libra. And then there was, and so that is setting that off. And then Venus, when it does station direct on April 12th. It will be at 24 degrees and 38 minutes of Pisces. Again, setting off that lunar eclipse from September 17th. So both Venus retrograde and Venus stationing direct. Venus retrogrades again on March 1st. I know I'm going all over with all the mutability. It retrogrades initially on March 1st at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries, Cardinal fire. This defaults back to the solar eclipse on October 2nd, 10 degrees of Libra, Cardinal air. All right, whatever was going on in early October or in September, October, maybe you're getting more clarity or re-examining with Venus retrograde. Venus will return to the sign of Pisces on March 27th, and it's then going to station direct on April 12th at 24 degrees and 38 minutes of Pisces, defaulting back to September 17th when we had the eclipse at 25 degrees and 41 minutes of Pisces. Getting a lot of information with themes you've been working with since the fall. Venus will remain in the sign of Pisces through April 30th. Then it goes back into Aries. And it'll be in, it's going to clear its shadow, or I believe it leaves Aries on May 15th. I forgot when it gets to 10 degrees of Aries, but basically, or on that part I'm getting confused. I'm trying to take in a lot of information. I'm getting ready for a trip to LA to see clients, and I want to pack this all in because there is a lot with this. So a lot of Venus, Mars stories, and what's interesting too is that Venus retrogrades in Aries and it goes back into Pisces. Mercury will retrograde, by the way, also in March 15th. It's going to retrograde at 9 degrees and 36 minutes of Aries. And then we have a solar eclipse on March 29th that will be at 9 degrees of Aries. So a lot of points at 9-10 degrees cardinal between Mercury and Venus retrograding, and Venus will be at 10 degrees and almost 11 degrees of Aries, and Mercury will retrograde at 9 degrees of Aries. The solar eclipse will be at 9 degrees of Aries. A lot of Mars energy, although the North Node of Destiny will no longer be in Aries because the North Node enters Pisces on January 11th. That's a whole other part of this. For the next year and a half, the North Node of Karma, where you're meant to be going, is in the sign of Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces as the higher octave of Venus, where Venus is currently transiting. Selfless love, empathy, creativity, sheer poetry and dreams, imagination, tapping into infinite imagination, the ocean of ideas that could come to you with this. But also dealing with the homelessness, the lost, all of us feeling lost within ourselves, suspending disbelief, kind of like Coleridge and those kind of authors, Kubla Khan and all that kind of stuff. That's what this reminds me of. It's going to be a lot of Pisces because Venus meets up with Saturn in Pisces on January 18th. That's dealing with your karmic responsibilities, what's working, what's not. Are you being responsible in your commitments to yourself? Venus in Pisces wants you to find value in love and opening your heart. A lot of people have been feeling very angry, and that's, I think, also part of the Mars retrograde story with Mars opposite Pluto. But Venus-Saturn will be a reality check on the 18th of January. And then Venus is going to meet up with Neptune on the 1st of February. February 1st, and that's a very different energy. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. That is floating in love. That is what can you create. There's so much you can create. That could be disappointment. That could be deception. There could be a lot of scams with all the Pisces energy. And with also the new age of Aquarius, much easier ways of proliferating those scams, obviously. But, it could also be sheer romance. We co-create with this. And even with Mars opposite Pluto, what have you been feeling? Have you been feeling internal rage? Are you angry at the world? Are you angry at the government? Or are you angry at your friends or yourself? It's reviewing how you handle your emotions, but also tapping into love and creativity with Venus and Pisces. I love Venus and Pisces. Probably my favorite placement of Venus and Pisces is in Pisces. It rules Libra and it rules Taurus, and I do have it in its rulership in Libra, and I do like that a lot. I am happy with my Venus, but I love Venus and Pisces. It just feels to me so loving. And so we've got that, but it's going to be challenged, right? And Venus retrograde in Aries will also remind us you've got to have courage. You've got to keep going ahead. You know, we began the year feeling a little lackluster with Mars retrograde, but don't be all ego based. Aries is the sign of self. We've had the eclipses in Aries Libra. We heard you. We heard you. I'm kidding. Now it's time to focus on, you know, going ahead, moving ahead, focusing on self, but also what can you contribute. The North Node of Karma is about, we need to go towards that. That's about helping people that can't help themselves. I remember when Saturn initially entered Pisces, Anne Ortley saying there are no words, because a lot of Pisces represents hidden information, victims that can't speak for themselves. So, and there are a lot of people right now definitely struggling with mental health and depression and addiction and homelessness. They need help. And a lot of us are maybe feeling a sense of, well, you know, where is this year going? But I like Mars retrograde in a way that I didn't think I would. Initially, I really was not happy about it, but I think reviewing is a good thing. And Venus retrogrades too. Well, we've all been kind of off course in some way or another. I think we need to get back on track. And I think that there's a lot of amazing stuff ahead. Did I leave anything out? Well, for now I didn't. So take care. And if you're in LA, I'm doing readings in West Hollywood. I'm doing an hour special for $85. I give crystals as a gift. I'd love to see you. Take care.